What if the anxiety you feel isn't a medical condition, but a natural consequence of your own lack of structure? In a world that tells you to be gentle with yourself and to honor every fleeting emotion, the ancient Stoics and the legendary samurai would offer a much harsher and far more effective truth. They would tell you that your mind is racing because you haven't given it a direction to march in. They would tell you that you aren't overwhelmed by the world. You are overwhelmed by your own unmanaged choices. Today, we are stripping away the modern excuses and exploring the brutal reality of the ancient mind. That anxiety is often just the symptom of an undisciplined life. We live in an era that validates sensitivity above all else. We are taught that if we feel anxious, we should retreat, lower our expectations, and wait for the feeling to pass. But the Stoics, like Epictetus, saw the human mind differently. He argued that we don't suffer from the events in our lives, but from our lack of mastery over our own judgments. When you have no routine, no clear hierarchy of values, and no command over your impulses, your mind becomes a chaotic battlefield. You aren't anxious because the future is uncertain. You are anxious because you haven't trained yourself to handle uncertainty. To a Stoic, an undisciplined mind is like an unanchored ship in a storm. It isn't the storm's fault that the ship is crashing. It's the lack of an anchor. The samurai philosophy of Japan took this even further. For a warrior like Miyamoto Musashi, a wandering mind was a dead mind. In the heat of battle, there is no room for anxiety. There is only the objective and the action. Musashi believed that the teacher is the needle, the disciple is the thread. You must be pierced by the discipline of a singular path to become something useful. When you spend your day scrolling through infinite feeds, reacting to every notification, and negotiating with yourself about whether to go to the gym or do your work, you are training your brain for chaos. You are literally practicing being scattered. And then, when that scattered mind feels heavy and overwhelmed, you call it anxiety. Musashi would call it a failure of spirit. Think about the structure of your day. Discipline is not a cage, it is a shield. When you have a clear morning ritual, a set time for deep work, and a boundary for your digital consumption, you eliminate thousands of tiny, draining decisions. Most modern anxiety comes from decision fatigue, the constant internal debate about what to do next. A disciplined person doesn't have this debate. They have already decided. By imposing order on your external world, you create silence in your internal world. The ancient masters knew that peace is the result of war. The war you wage against your own laziness and your own distractions every single morning. This brings us to a radical psychological shift: the difference between gentleness and integrity. Modern culture tells you that if you're stressed, you should break your commitments to yourself. But every time you hit snooze, every time you skip your workout, and every time you choose the easy distraction over the difficult duty, you are telling your subconscious that you cannot be trusted. This creates a deep, underlying sense of insecurity. You feel anxious because you are living with a person, yourself, who is unreliable. Stoicism teaches that the only thing you truly own is your character. When you act with discipline, you build self-trust. And when you trust yourself, the threats of the outside world lose their power to make you tremble. How do you fix this today? Stop looking for a cure for your anxiety and start looking for a command for your life. Start with the things you can control. Make your bed with military precision. Do the hardest task on your list first, without checking your phone. Eat the food that fuels you, not the food that comforts you. These aren't just productivity hacks. They are acts of spiritual warfare. You are reclaiming the territory of your mind from the invaders of chaos and comfort. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." If your ambition is merely to be comfortable, you will always be at the mercy of your nerves. The most important thought you can carry into tomorrow is this: anxiety is often just energy that has no place to go. When you don't give that energy a purpose, it turns inward and begins to eat you. But when you channel that energy into a disciplined path, into your work, your training, and your duties, it becomes the fuel for your greatness. You don't need a life with less stress, you need a life with more structure. You don't need to be healed, you need to be trained. Stop identifying with your fragility. You are the descendant of warriors and philosophers who survived plagues, wars, and collapses by sheer force of will. Your anxiety is not a life sentence. It is a signal that you are ready for a challenge you haven't accepted yet. Put down the excuses, pick up your responsibility, and find your discipline. Because the moment you become the master of your actions, the shadows of your mind will have no choice but to vanish.